Welcome, dear friends, to a tale of love lost and found. Enjoy the story. The oncology ward at Mercy General Hospital was eerily quiet in the post-lunch lull. Jack Anderson walked the familiar path to room 217, a bouquet of irises clutched in his trembling hands. The nurses nodded sympathetically as he passed. They all knew Jack by now. He had been a constant presence since his wife Lily's diagnosis 6 months ago. As he entered the room, Jack's heart clenched at the sight of Lily's frail form in the hospital bed. Her once luscious blonde hair was now a wispy pixie cut, growing back slowly after the brutal rounds of chemotherapy. "Hey, beautiful," Jack said softly, placing the flowers on her bedside table. "How's my girl doing today?" Lily's eyes fluttered open, a weak smile gracing her pale lips. "Still here," she whispered. "Still fighting." Jack leaned down to kiss her forehead, inhaling the antiseptic smell that had replaced her familiar vanilla scent. "That's my warrior," he murmured, fighting back tears. As he settled into the chair beside her bed, Jack's mind wandered back to the day they met, 4 years ago. Jack had been on assignment for Snapshot magazine, covering the Harmony Music Festival in a small town outside of Chicago. His camera had captured the vibrant costumes, the ecstatic faces of concert-goers, and the raw energy of the performers. But it was a lone guitarist in the town square that truly caught his eye. She sat on a simple wooden stool, her fingers dancing across the strings of an acoustic guitar. Her eyes were closed, lost in the music as a crowd gathered around her. Jack found himself lowering his camera, mesmerized by the haunting melody. As the final notes faded away, the guitarist opened her eyes, meeting Jack's gaze. She smiled, and Jack felt his heart skip a beat. But before he could approach her, someone bumped into him, momentarily distracting him. When he looked back, she was gone. For days afterward, Jack scoured the town, showing her picture to locals, but no one seemed to know who she was. He even approached the festival organizers, but they had no record of a solo guitarist performing in the town square. "Sorry, man," one of the organizers had said, shrugging. "We had tons of street performers. Can't keep track of all of them." Dejected, Jack returned to Chicago, unable to shake the memory of the mysterious guitarist. Her melody haunted his dreams, and he found himself sketching her face in the margins of his notebooks during boring meetings. Weeks later, Jack was walking past a newsstand near his apartment when something made him stop. There, behind the counter, sat a woman who could have been the guitarist's twin. "Excuse me," Jack said, his heart racing. "This might sound crazy, but were you at the Harmony Music Festival last month?" The woman looked up, confusion clouding her features. "I'm sorry, what?" "The music festival," Jack repeated. "You were playing guitar in the town square. I'm a photographer. I saw you there." The woman shook her head. "I think you must have me confused with someone else. I've never even been to that town, let alone played guitar there. I can't play any instruments." Jack felt his face flush with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry," he stammered. "It's just—" "You look exactly like her." The woman laughed, a melodious sound that sent shivers down Jack's spine. "Well, they say everyone has a doppelganger out there somewhere. I'm Lily, by the way." "Jack," he replied, extending his hand. "Jack Anderson." As they shook hands, Jack felt a spark of electricity between them. "Listen," he said impulsively. "Would you like to grab a coffee sometime? I swear I'm not a creep, just a photographer with an apparently faulty memory." Lily hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "You know what? Why not? It's not every day a handsome photographer mistakes me for a rock star. But just so you know, if you turn out to be an axe murderer, my friend knows where I am and who I'm with." Jack laughed, relief washing over him. "Deal. I promise to leave my axe collection at home." Little did they know, that chance encounter would change both their lives forever. Jack and Lily's whirlwind romance was the stuff of fairy tales. Their coffee date turned into dinner, which turned into a weekend getaway, and before they knew it, they were inseparable. Jack's photographs took on a new life, infused with the joy and love he felt with Lily by his side. They were married within a year, in a small ceremony in the park where they had shared their first kiss. Lily wore a simple white sundress, her hair adorned with a crown of daisies. Jack couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked down the makeshift aisle, his camera forgotten for once as he committed every detail to memory. Their life together was filled with laughter, adventure, and music. Though Lily couldn't play an instrument, she had a beautiful singing voice, and their tiny apartment was always filled with melody. Jack's photography career soared, with Lily as his muse and biggest supporter. But their happiness was shattered on a crisp autumn morning, just 3 years into their marriage. Lily had been experiencing severe headaches and dizziness for weeks. An MRI revealed the unthinkable: a brain tumor, aggressive and already spreading. The next 6 months were a blur of hospitals, treatments, and tearful nights spent holding each other close. Through it all, Lily's spirit remained unbroken. "You can't get rid of me that easily, Jack Anderson," she'd joke even on her worst days. Now, as Jack sat by her hospital bed, he clung to those moments of levity. He read to her from her favorite books, shared gossip about their friends, and reminisced about their happiest memories together. As night fell, Jack carefully climbed onto the narrow hospital bed, gathering Lily in his arms. She nestled against him, her body so much smaller than it used to be. "Tell me a story," Jack whispered, his voice thick with unshed tears. Lily smiled, her eyes closed. "Once upon a time," she began softly, "there was a photographer who fell in love with a girl he thought was a guitarist." Jack held her close, listening to the story of their love until they both drifted off to sleep. Lily slipped away in the early hours of the morning, Jack's arms still wrapped tightly around her. When the nurses came to check on her, they found him sitting silently by her side, her hand clasped in his. "Mr. Anderson," one of the nurses said gently, touching his shoulder. "I'm so sorry for your loss." Jack looked up, his eyes red-rimmed and hollow. "She's gone," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "My Lily's gone." The days that followed passed in a haze of grief. Jack went through the motions of planning the funeral, accepting condolences from friends and family, but he felt hollow inside. The world had lost its color, its music. At the cemetery, as they lowered Lily's casket into the ground, Jack felt a part of himself being buried with her. How was he supposed to go on without her? How could he face a future they were supposed to share? "Jack," his best friend Tom said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to be strong right now. It's okay to fall apart. We're all here for you." But Jack couldn't fall apart. He couldn't let go. Because letting go meant accepting that Lily was really gone, and he wasn't ready for that. Not yet, maybe not ever. Months passed, and Jack remained trapped in his grief. He couldn't bring himself to pick up his camera, to capture a world that no longer held any beauty for him. His friends tried to coax him out, to help him move on, but Jack retreated further into his solitude. Every Saturday, he made the hour-long train journey to the cemetery, spending hours sitting by Lily's grave. He talked to her, telling her about his week, about the things she was missing. Sometimes he brought his guitar, the one she had bought him for their first anniversary, insisting that at least one of them should be musical, and played the songs she had loved. It was on one of these trips that fate intervened once again. The platform was crowded with weekend travelers, gardeners with their plants, fishermen with their gear, and others like Jack, carrying flowers for departed loved ones. As the train pulled in, there was a mad rush for the doors. Jack noticed a woman with a cane struggling to board. Without thinking, he reached out to help her, supporting her elbow as she stepped onto the train. "Thank you," she said, turning to face him. Jack felt the blood drain from his face. For a moment, he thought he was looking at a ghost. The woman before him was the spitting image of Lily. "Are you all right?" the woman asked, concern etching her features. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Jack blinked rapidly, unable to form words. The woman waved a hand in front of his face. "Hello? Earth to kind stranger?" "I'm sorry," Jack finally managed to stammer. You look exactly like someone I used to know." The woman tilted her head, studying him. "That's a new one. Usually guys just offer to buy me a drink." She extended her hand. "I'm Leah, by the way." "Jack," he replied automatically, shaking her hand. "I'm sorry if I freaked you out. It's just, The resemblance is uncanny. Leah smiled, and Jack felt his heart constrict. It was Lily's smile, down to the tiny dimple in her left cheek. "Well, Jack," Leah said, "since you've already swept me off my feet, quite literally, why don't you join me for the ride? I could use the company, and you look like you could use a distraction." Against his better judgment, Jack found himself nodding. As they found seats and the train lurched into motion, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change once again. During the train ride, Jack learned that Leah was a professional cellist, though she often played guitar at festivals and local events. The similarity to the guitarist he'd seen years ago was too much to be a coincidence. "Leah," Jack said hesitantly, "this is going to sound crazy, but were you by any chance at the Harmony Music Festival about 4 years ago?" Leah's eyes widened. "Yes, I was. I remember because it was one of my first big gigs after graduating from Juilliard. How did you know?" Jack's heart raced. "I was there too. I'm a photographer. I was covering the event for a magazine. I saw you playing in the town square, but when I tried to find you later, you'd vanished." Leah laughed. "Oh my God, I remember that day. I had to rush off because my cello teacher had surprise tickets to the symphony. I always regretted not sticking around longer." As they talked, Jack felt a mix of emotions swirling inside him: confusion, excitement, and an overwhelming sense of guilt. How could he be enjoying a conversation with this woman who looked so much like his late wife? When they reached the cemetery stop, Jack hesitated. "Listen, Leah, there's something I need to show you. Would you mind coming with me for a moment?" Leah looked uncertain, but something in Jack's expression must have convinced her. "All right," she said. "Lead the way." As they walked through the cemetery, Leah's cane tapping softly on the path, Jack's mind raced. How was he going to explain this? Would she think he was crazy? Finally, they reached Lily's grave. Jack stood silently, watching as Leah read the inscription on the headstone. Her eyes widened as she took in the photograph. That's me," she whispered, staring at the image of Lily. "But it's not me. How is this possible?" Jack nodded solemnly. "This is my wife, Lily. She passed away 6 months ago." Leah turned to him, her eyes wide with shock. "But how? We could be twins." Jack recounted the story of how he'd met Lily, thinking she was the guitarist from the festival. As he spoke, a terrible suspicion began to form in his mind. "Leah," he asked gently, "what do you know about your birth parents?" Leah shook her head. "Nothing, really. I was raised by my grandmother. She never talked about my parents, and I always got the feeling it was a painful subject for her." Jack took a deep breath. I think you and Lily might have been twins, separated at birth." The color drained from Leah's face. That's impossible, isn't it?" But as they stood there comparing notes on their lives, the similarities became too numerous to ignore. They had the same birthday, the same blood type, even the same obscure allergy to kiwi fruit. "We need to find out the truth," Leah said firmly, "for Lily's sake and for ours." Over the next few weeks, Jack and Leah dove into research, searching for any clues about their shared past. They pored over Lily's old diaries and documents, looking for any mention of adoption or estranged family members. Jack found himself spending more and more time with Leah, drawn to her in a way that both thrilled and terrified him. She was so much like Lily, and yet uniquely herself. Her passion for music, her quick wit, and her resilience in the face of her own health struggles all reminded him of the woman he'd lost. Finally, they found a lead, an address scribbled in the back of one of Lily's old notebooks. It led them to a small town just outside the city, to a modest house with a well-tended garden. As they stood on the porch, Leah's hand trembling as she reached for the doorbell, Jack felt a surge of protectiveness. Whatever they discovered here, he wouldn't let her face it alone. An elderly woman answered the door, her eyes widening in shock as she saw Leah. "Lily?" she gasped. "Is it really you?" Jack stepped forward. "Ma'am, I'm Jack Anderson. This is Leah. We have some questions about Lily." The woman, who introduced herself as Martha Evans, invited them inside. As they sat in her cozy living room, surrounded by photos of Lily throughout the years, Martha's story spilled out. She had given birth to twins, but the delivery had been complicated. When she woke up, she was told that only one baby had survived. The other, she was told, had been stillborn. "But now, seeing you," Martha said, tears streaming down her face as she looked at Leah, "I know the truth. That witch of a nurse, she must have stolen you." As the full story emerged, of a desperate nurse who couldn't have children of her own, of a young mother too sedated to know she'd had twins, Jack and Leah sat in stunned silence. "All these years," Martha sobbed, "I thought I'd lost you. And then Lily, my sweet Lily, she left too. We had a terrible fight when she wanted to move to the city. I said such awful things." Leah reached out, taking Martha's hand in hers. "It's not too late," she said softly. "We can't change the past, but we can build a future, together." The revelation of Leah and Lily's true relationship sent shockwaves through all their lives. For Leah, it was a chance to connect with the family she'd never known she had. For Martha, it was an opportunity for redemption, a second chance to be the mother she'd always wanted to be. And for Jack, it was a complex mix of emotions. On one hand, he was overjoyed to have this unexpected connection to Lily. Leah was a living link to the woman he'd loved and lost. But on the other hand, he found himself grappling with feelings he wasn't sure he was ready for. As the weeks turned into months, Jack found himself spending more and more time with Leah and Martha. They shared stories of Lily, laughing and crying together as they pieced together the life of the woman they had all loved in different ways. Slowly, Jack felt the weight of grief lifting from his shoulders. He picked up his camera again, finding beauty in the world once more, and with each passing day, he found himself drawn more and more to Leah. It was Leah who finally broached the subject one evening as they sat on Martha's porch, watching the sunset. "Jack," she said softly, "I need to know. What are we doing here?" Jack turned to her, his heart pounding. "What do you mean?" Leah sighed, her eyes meeting his. "This connection between us. Is it just because I remind you of Lily? Or is there something more?" Jack was silent for a long moment, gathering his thoughts. "At first," he admitted, "I think it was about Lily. You were this incredible link to her, a part of her I never knew existed. But now—" He reached out, taking Leah's hand in his. "Now, I see you, Leah, your strength, your kindness, your passion for music. You're so much like Lily in some ways, but you're also entirely your own person, and I think I'm falling in love with you." Leah's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, Jack, I've been falling for you too, but I've been so afraid that I'm just a replacement for Lily, afraid that we're betraying her memory somehow." Jack shook his head. "No, we're not betraying her. Lily always said she wanted me to be happy no matter what, and I think she led me to you, one last gift from beyond." As they leaned in for their first kiss, a warm breeze rustled the leaves around them, and for a moment, Jack could have sworn he heard the faint strains of a guitar, playing a familiar, haunting melody. The next year was a whirlwind of change and growth for Jack, Leah, and Martha. They worked together to heal old wounds and forge new bonds. Martha moved to the city to be closer to Leah, and the three of them often spent weekends together, creating new family traditions. Jack's photography career flourished once more, now infused with a new depth of emotion. He did a series on twins separated at birth, inspired by Leah and Lily's story, which garnered critical acclaim and helped other families reunite. Leah continued her music career, but now with a renewed passion. She composed a piece in Lily's honor, a hauntingly beautiful duet for cello and guitar, which she performed at a benefit concert for cancer research. As their relationship deepened, Jack and Leah navigated the complexities of their unique situation with honesty and compassion. They visited Lily's grave together, sharing their joys and sorrows with her memory. On the anniversary of Lily's passing, Jack took Leah to the spot where he and Lily had shared their first kiss. As the sun set over the park, painting the sky in brilliant hues of pink and gold, Jack got down on one knee. "Leah," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "you came into my life when I thought all hope was lost. You've helped me heal. You've shown me that it's possible to love again without forgetting. Will you marry me?" Tears streaming down her face, Leah nodded. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes." 2 years later, Jack and Leah stood hand in hand in the same cemetery where their journey had begun. But this time, they weren't alone. Martha stood beside them, beaming with pride, as a justice of the peace pronounced them husband and wife. As they turned to face their gathered friends and family, Jack caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd. It was the nurse from the oncology ward, the one who had been so kind during Lily's final days. She smiled at him, giving a small nod of approval. And as Jack looked around at the life he had now, a life full of love, music, and second chances, he sent a silent thank you to Lily, wherever she might be. For he knew that without her love, without her loss, he never would have found this unexpected happiness. And as Leah squeezed his hand, her eyes shining with love, Jack knew that their story was far from over. It was, in fact, just beginning. That evening, at their reception, Leah surprised Jack with a special performance. She had rearranged Lily's favorite song for cello, infusing it with her own style while honoring its original beauty. As she played, Jack felt as if the past and present were merging, creating a new harmony that honored all they had lost and all they had gained. Martha joined them on the dance floor, her eyes misty with happy tears. "My girls," she said, embracing them both. "Lily would be so proud of you both." As the night wore on, Jack found a quiet moment to slip away. He stood on the balcony, looking up at the star-filled sky. "Thank you, Lily," he whispered, "for everything. I'll always love you, and I promise to cherish the gift you've given us." A shooting star streaked across the sky, and Jack smiled. He returned to the party, to Leah, to their new life together. The melody of their love story continued, richer and more complex than ever before, a testament to the enduring power of love in all its forms.